self-love. Self-love is, in my opinion, one of the most integral, important parts of healing from sexual trauma, but it is also one of the most difficult. So I think that self-love, much like healing in general, is a lifelong, ongoing process. I don't think you ever fully heal from your sexual trauma, and I also don't think you ever fully love yourself. But I think there are ways to learn how to have better self-love. And I think that once you figure out how to love yourself better, your healing journey just really takes off from there. So self-love is kind of one of those terms that I feel like we hear all the time. It's become a little bit a buzzword now, I feel like I just feel like you always hear self-love, self-love, and it's like, what does self-love even mean? So I wanted to start off by just kind of giving my own personal definition of what it means to have self-love. Self-love is having compassion for yourself. Self-love is holding yourself in a high regard. Self-love means trusting yourself, respecting yourself. When you get down to it, self-love really is all about treating yourself the same way that you would treat someone in your life that you love. So your best friend, your parents, your sibling, your significant other, anyone in your life that you really, really love and care about, you should be treating yourself with that exact same level of care and respect as you do to other people in your life. I remember the first time I heard the phrase, like, you should be your own best friend. It was such a shock for me to hear that, because I was like, I've never thought about that before, but it's so true. You need to be your own biggest support system. You need to be your own best friend, because at the end of the day, we can have other support systems in our life, but the one person who is guaranteed to be with us for our entire life is ourselves. The one relationship that we are guaranteed to have that lasts an entire lifetime is our relationship with ourselves. So it needs to be the most important. So one of the reasons why self-love is particularly important for sexual assault survivors like ourselves is that we tend to actually do the opposite of what we really need to be doing when we first come out of the aftermath of being sexually assaulted. So what I mean by that is, when we go through this trauma, the person we need most by our side to help us through this is ourselves. But because it's so traumatic and because we've gone through this thing that's so difficult, we tend to want to just kind of put that experience in a box, tuck it away, put it on a high shelf somewhere and not think about it, not focus on it, just pretend it didn't happen, right? But in doing that, we're actually kind of abandoning ourselves. It's a form of self-abandonment, right? By saying, I'm not gonna deal with this, I'm not gonna even try to heal from this, we are not giving ourselves what we need. So when we want to really start this process of healing from being sexually assaulted, we need to start first with repairing our relationship with ourselves and repairing that abandonment wound that probably came up when we felt like we abandoned ourselves after going through that. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if, sometimes I talk and I'm like, is anything I'm saying making sense? But hopefully you guys are with me. Okay, so you guys might be like, all right, this all sounds great, but what are actual tips or actionable things I can do in my everyday life that will help me gain more self-love? Do not fret, I'm about to give you those now. So tip number 1 is surround yourself with people that make you happy. Surround yourself with people that make you feel good about yourself and that uplift you. This is a huge one, and it's something that I think we all do at some point in our lives, is we let toxic people stay in our lives for too long, or we allow people that don't treat us well to remain in our lives. And you'll get this feeling in your gut when you're around someone who doesn't make you feel good and doesn't uplift you. And it makes sense that we do this, right? Because we've been letting ourselves, we've been allowing ourselves to not treat us well for who knows how long. So it makes sense that we let another person, whether it's a friend or a family member or someone, it makes sense that we let them not treat us well and we keep them in our lives because we're used to being treated like that by ourselves, if that makes sense. So yeah, surround yourself with people that make you feel happy. That is one of the biggest actionable things that you can do to help love yourself. Because what you're doing when you do that, what you're doing when you make sure that the people you spend time with are people that you actually love and people that you actually feel good about yourself around, people that you feel like you can be yourself around. When you're doing that, you are taking care of yourself because you are letting your needs be met by only spending time with people that are going to make you a better person and make you feel good about yourself. Another big one that's so difficult but so important is stop comparing yourself to other people. So this can take many forms. One that I see that's very common with sexual assault survivors is kind of that idea of like, oh, other people have it worse. Like I should be over this by now. Why is my sexual assault still affecting me so much? Other people have such worse stories than mine. Other people went through worse. Whatever it is that you're telling yourself, first of all, it's not a competition. Our pain and our suffering and our trauma that we've been through in our life is not a competition. It doesn't matter what your story is. You still should feel validated to feel hurt by something that hurt you. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is when you're comparing yourself to other people, that's actually another way of not being there for yourself. It's another way of abandoning yourself because you're basically saying, my needs aren't important. My healing is not important because my story is not as traumatic as someone else's story. That's bullshit. I'm gonna tell you right now, that's bullshit. We all deserve to heal. It doesn't matter whether we were sexually harassed or whether we were raped or anything in between. We all deserve healing from anything that has caused us pain. So the other way that we sometimes compare ourselves is kind of this phenomenon that I think has become much worse with social media, with TikTok, with Instagram, with all these different things where we're constantly seeing people pop up on our feeds and we're comparing ourselves to them. So whether it's looking at someone and thinking, oh, her body is so much better than mine, she's so much prettier than me, oh, she has a boyfriend and I don't, why don't I have a boyfriend when she has a boyfriend? Or, oh, she got that job and I still haven't been promoted. Or, oh, she got into this amazing grad school program and I didn't. Or like constantly comparing ourselves to people on social media is, again, it's a way of abandoning our own pursuit of self-love. Because if we really truly loved ourselves, again, the way that we love our best friend, if our best friend, you know, is like, oh, that other girl's way prettier than me, you're gonna immediately be like, girl, no, stop. You are gorgeous. Stop comparing yourself, you know? So we need to train our brain to do that for ourselves. Again, we need to be our own best friend. So when you hear those thoughts popping up in your brain of like, that girl's prettier than me, that girl's skinnier than me, she's smarter than me, she has a boyfriend and I don't, whatever it is, stop yourself just like you would stop your best friend. Just literally mid-thought be like, wait, what are you doing? Stop comparing yourself. That is, you know, if you stop comparing yourself and you only surround yourself with people that make you feel good about yourself, your self-love is going to increase tenfold by just doing those two simple things. My next tip for self-love is to prioritize self-care. Now, self-care is just as much, if not more, of a buzzword that we hear these days, but self-care is important. It's very important. It goes back to what I said earlier about getting our needs met for that inner child that we have within us. So we need to be taking care of ourselves. We need to be our own caretakers. When we're children, we have caretakers that are, you know, our mom, our dad, whoever took care of us, our grandparents, a nanny, babysitters, family friends, teachers, therapists for some of us, like all of these different things are all of these different people that were taking care of us, because when we're a child, we can't take care of ourselves, right? Now we're adults or we're adolescents or however old you are, we have to take it upon ourselves to be our own caretaker. Just like we have to be our own best friend, we have to be our own caretaker as well. We have to be our own mom, our own dad, our own grandma, our own teacher, right? And so in doing that, we have to get our basic needs met, right? Like obviously we have to feed ourselves, make sure we're drinking water, all these basic things. But self-care is included in that, right? So making sure that we're doing things that bring joy to our lives, like finding different hobbies to do, making sure we're getting enough rest and relaxation. For myself, some of my self-care routines and rituals are, I love taking a nice hot bath. I love getting a bath bomb or bath salts or doing a bubble bath and just relaxing, listening to relaxing music and just sitting in the bath. It's kind of a form of meditation for me. So that's what I consider self-care. But self-care could also be watching a funny movie, you know, or treating yourself to some chocolate, or going on a walk. I love walking. I love doing yoga. So those are some of my self-care practices as well. Really just anything that is taking care of yourself and that is adding value to your life. And then my last tip is don't be afraid to ask for help and support from people when you need it. So I think a lot of us, we isolate ourselves from others. Maybe it's not even an outward thing. Maybe we're still being really social. We're still hanging out with our friends. We're still seeing our family, but inwardly we are isolating ourselves because we haven't told them what we went through. Now, some of you might have told people right away. For myself, I didn't tell people what happened for years after it happened. That, in my opinion, that was one of the biggest things that really set my healing back a lot. So I think one of the biggest reasons why it took me so long to start healing was because I was not asking for help and I was not asking for support. It's really difficult for me to ask for help with any sort of mental health issue that I'm going through. It took me years to start doing therapy, even though I knew I needed it. You know, it took me years to start opening up about my sexual assault, even though it would have helped me so much to get support and to get help around it. So yeah, another way of self-abandoning is not asking for help, because we're basically saying you don't deserve to get help. You don't deserve to get support. When you're truly loving yourself and practicing good self-love and good self-care, you know that it's okay to ask for help. You know that it's okay to ask for support, because you know that that will greatly positively impact your healing journey.